Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring the good news to the poor. He has sent me to comfort the brokenhearted and to proclaim that the captives will be released and the prisoners will be freed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God.
My people have cried out for an answer. And this is what I have to say, says the Spirit of life. A veil has been placed upon this nation, and I did it. I did it. So that for a season my people would wonder and faith would increase. For in darkness faith grows. In despair faith grows. I did it. But now my fury has ended. The hands of once compassionate women have cooked their own children, and their children have become food for them. Your children have become food for who were once compassionate women. But my fury is fulfilled, says the Lord. And I have now kindled a fire in Zion. I have kindled a fire in Zion, in America, in nations throughout the earth.
The case regarding Roe versus Wade is now in. The decision is out. It's been issued by Justice Alito. And Roe v. Wade, according to our reports from the U.S. Supreme Court and our own Shannon Bream, is that Roe v. Wade has been overturned and the question of abortion has been returned to the states. It's been 50 years. It's been 50 years. It's been 50 years since that landmark Supreme Court ruling, and conservatives in government and in law have been working for 50 years to overturn it, and this is the live reaction now.
Yes, 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 and yes. Thrive Nation, I want to tell you something exciting here, okay? The man I'm going to introduce you to on today's show, he hopped on the Thrive Time show, and I want to say it was close to a year ago, maybe 10 months ago. We'll just say long before now. He hopped on the show. He said, Clay, they're going to overturn Roe versus Wade. Now, if you go back and look at the Rumble feed and you look at the description in the video, he got hammered. I mean, some really discerning people that care about our country, they're going, you can't put that kind of hopium out there. You can't make claims they're going to overturn Roe versus Wade. Don't you know that thing has been sitting there for, decades? They're not going to overturn Roe versus Wade. And then he said, Clay, I'm telling you, you're going to watch the collapse of the dollar. You're going to see the inflation rate. It's going to get into a double-digit inflation rate. And people, you should have seen the Rumble comments, folks. You can go into Rumble Night right now. You can go to rumble.com and you can search for Thrive Time Show and Bo Polny. And when you find the Bo Polny shows, where I interviewed Bo Polny, and he's talking about inflation. And again, a lot of people would write in the comments like, you're just trying to sell us gold. And I told people, I said, listen, if you want to buy gold from Goldline, I don't make any commission. If you want to buy gold from BH-PM, that's who I use. You could go to Beverly Hills Precious Metals. You could buy from them. If you don't, I don't care who you buy gold from. But the point is, the dollar is going to collapse. It's going to happen, and you're going to see hyperinflation, and Bo Polny's right. And then more hate came in. So I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to triple down. I'm going to call Bo Polny, and I'm going to ask him to speak at the Reawaken America tour. So I actually called myself through some of the speakers, some of the doctors, and I called them. I said, hey, would you be willing to yield your time to make room for Bo Polny at the tour? And one of the doctors whose name will be nameless today, he said, you know what? I actually, I'm not feeling the best, and I would be happy to yield my time. I probably need a recharge. So I invited Bo on the Reawaken America tour, and then Bo got on the stage, and he talked about Roe versus Wade will be overturned, and you're going to see the collapse of the dollar. And then I got even more hate. So I called Bo up right away and I said, Bo Polny, can you join us at each and every Reawaken America tour? We're going to have Eric Trump and Don Jr. and Dr. Judy Mikovits and all these household names, Bobby Kennedy Jr., General Flynn, and we're going to have you on the stage. And people are like, have you lost your mind? There's no way they're not going to overturn Roe versus Wade. And you know what just happened today, ladies and gentlemen? So the Supreme Court of the United States of America just overturned Roe versus Wade. Bo could probably hop on today's show and just spend the entire 20 minutes or 30 minutes saying, I told you so, but he has more to share with you. Bo Polny was right. Welcome on to this Drive show, sir. How are you?
Okay, no, if that wasn't an introduction, Clay, I don't know what it is. You are amazing. Thank you for having me back. And yes, these are glory days. This is exciting. These are blessed times. We live in historically awesome, biblical, godly days, and we are watching the movement of God. And as crazy, as horrible, as terrible things may appear, might appear, could appear, it's just an appearance. It's all an illusion. Because you know who's in control, Clay? God the Father and his Son Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit. They got this. They've had this under control since day one, and it's so exciting to watch it unfold, Clay, in our lifetime.
Now, you've been right so much, and I think the best part of the shows that we do together are when you're talking. So I'm just going to kind of get out of your way. I'm going to go back over here. I'm taking notes. Again, the student is ready when the teacher appears, and I've been a big buyer of gold and silver for a long time, Bo, because I've had some very wise mentors in my life that actually own banks, and they said you need to take a quarter of your cash and buy gold and silver because fiat currency will eventually collapse. And so I want to just recap a quick historical timeline, then I'll get out of your way and let you lead the way here. In 1971, ladies and gentlemen, I'll put this on the show notes. In 1971, America got off of the gold standard per the recommendation of Henry Kissinger. That's 1971. In 1971, the World Economic Forum was founded. The World Economic Forum was founded by Klaus Schwab per the recommendation of Henry Kissinger. By the way, folks, this is Klaus Schwab. The difference of the post-industrial revolution is it doesn't so much change what you're doing as much as it changes you if you take the genetic thing. And he hangs out with the hairless cat, Mr. Bigglesworth. The hairless cat, you've all know a Harari. Okay, so the World Economic Forum was founded in 1971. We got off the gold standard in 1971. America began sacrificing babies to Baal at scale in 1971. Abortion became legal. The Dark Side comic series was created in 1971, prophesying COVID-19, the Great Reset. Rules for Radicals, which is dedicated to Lucifer. That book was written in 1971, which teaches radicals how to make an emotional argument to win out debates and arguments to basically to convince Americans to do ungodly acts and to go against the Constitution and our Judeo-Christian principles. Rules for Radicals was written teaching an entire generation how to make these emotional arguments. The Pope finished his snake building in 1971, the audience hall. The experimental prototype Community of Tomorrow, the Epcot Center, was completed in 1971. 50 years later, Bo, you said you study time. You were telling me, Clay, calm down. I promise it's going to get good. So I immediately called you today. You're the first person I called to talk about Roe versus Wade being overturned. Back to you, Bo.
So, this is all scriptural. There's so many scriptures that we can reference. Probably, the top of the food chain, that we can talk about right now, since you mentioned all those events of 71. So the critical biblical reference is Leviticus. Specifically Leviticus 25, verse 10, and you shall consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land and to all of its inhabitants. So all those references you reference of 1971, okay, you take 50 years forward, it takes us directly into 2021. But remember, God's timeline, right? God's clock starts a little different. So his year begins on Rosh Hashanah, which was September 6th of 2021. So that would be like New Year's to us, man's time. Okay. So God's year began last year, September 6th, Rosh Hashanah. So now we are in the 50-year cycle. Period. So this is Leviticus. So we're watching things unfold. And what did I say with you on your last talk we did? I think maybe 2 weeks ago we spoke. And I said, you're going to take this year, Clay, and you're going to look at like a coin. And so you got two sides of the coin. So this year has 12 months. Years have 12 months. So the first half is 6 months. The next half is another 6 months. Well, we're at the 24th, there's only 1 week left in the month, or in half of the year. And I also prefaced that June 21, the summer solstice, was a massively important time point. And look what happened 3 days later, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. 3 days later, you got June 24th today. We have the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So all of this is like a coin. The first half of the year looked horrible. The second half of the year is going to be awesome, but horrible for them. So it's literally taking this year and cutting it in half. And so beginning July, or even as June ends and July begins, we're going to have the world you knew change forever. It's going to be historic. So all those things you referenced of 71, all the the boom, 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 all the points, bullet points you hit, are all going to turn. So, and it all was to preface and to start with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And the simplest analogy I can tell you why that's so critical, Clay, because imagine, okay, God the Father called you out to do what you're doing today, okay, through the prophet Kim Clement, okay? So you didn't know what a prophet was, but it blew your mind when you heard a prophet God called you by name, right? As much as, he called you by, he didn't say, he said, Mr. Clark. That's mind-boggling. When a father calls you out by name. He called me out by name as the analyst of time. So we both been called out by name by God. So, we are living in historic times. God has his prophets and his appointed people. You are, like myself, and I'm not a prophet, neither are you, but we're appointed for a time like this to do God's will. And we're doing God's will. And so what's happening right now is that event of Roe v. Wade is like the linchpin, the turning pin. So imagine imagine yourself, Clay, being God. Okay, just think about this. Just put yourself there for a minute.
My head would explode. It'd be overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly. but you are, just for this 30-second increment, you are God for 30 seconds, right? You create everything, and then your creation, man, turns his back on you because they decide to kill your creation. That's what happened, right? So God's like, oh, okay, you want to do that? So he turned his back on us for 50 years. And we've talked about the rise of the harlot. So we've seen the rise of the harlot for 50 years, and that was the 7 hills, as Lance Wallnau talks about, as the 7 hills. So they control all the hills because the harlot, what I said was the harlot is at full strength. So the harlot is in absolute full strength, and that's why they've been so absolutely arrogant, Clay. Arrogant. That's why you have Yuval Harari and Klaus Schwab. They're out there they're stating to the world their agenda. They have no fear whatsoever. Why? Because it's complete pride and worst off, arrogance. Complete pride and arrogance, and they have zero fear because they control everything, right? So they control the 7 hills, so they control all the media stations, the schools, all the money. Everything is controlled, and that is why you've seen this incredible amount of arrogance amongst them, okay? But now we're at the halfway point of the year. I've also talked about, if God was to give birth, prophetically this has been stated numerous times that there will be a birth of a new era. So if God is to give birth, then you have to think of when that could be, right? So if September 6th was day 1, well, 14 days later, that's when, if you look at the cycle, a woman's cycle, so 14 days later, she could become pregnant. So you go 9 months forward, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June is 9 months. So we're at 9 months, and no one knows the exact day or hour that the birth occurs. So we're about to see a birth of a new era here on this world, and something historic's about to go down. And so all of this has been lined up, all been pinpointed and precisely created by God, and we're watching these incredible events unfold, but at all. And back to the thing of, you being God for a second, right? You turned your back on us because we turned our back on you, you see? And so now, 50 years later, Leviticus, God, and the man who prophesied over you, Kim Clement, the prophetic word is, and this was 8 years ago, my anger has been kindled. So God's anger at us has now been kindled. Why?
Roe v. Wade was just overturned. So God's anger on us has now been kindled. And now we're going to see the wrath of God on them. So these next 6 months are going to play out just like Kim Clement prophesied. What did he say? He said about strange July, strange July. Okay, so we're a week from strange July, strange July. Now, what the next thing is going to happen immediately here is because Roe v. Wade is overturned, we're immediately going to see riots break out. Okay, all across the land, riots are going to break out. And because why? This was their food supply. Okay, this was, the worshiping the Baal, the food supply. This was like these disgusting people literally just lost. This is a devastating loss to the Satanists. And so because of Roe v. Wade now being overturned, God's now he's going to show us favor. And this is the best part. In Romans 8 verse 30, if God is with you, who could be against you? And so now God is with us. So repeat it, Clay. God is with us because we have overturned Roe v. Wade. So man overturned what we started 50 years ago. And now that we've overturned Roe v. Wade, the bullet points you just mentioned, the dollar, okay, that's about to collapse.
Now I want to make sure, and I don't mean to cut you off at all. I want to make sure people know this. I'm putting the verses, Romans 8:30 and Leviticus 25:10. I'm putting that in the show notes, and I'm going to pull this up just because you normally come on the show with this unbelievable PDF of everything documented. So I'm just trying to kind of keep up with you, just so our listeners can have something to look up later. I want to point out the U.S. debt clock. I mean, look at this thing, and if you look at the U.S. debt clock and you follow it, and right here on the right, it shows the dollar to gold ratio if it wasn't manipulated, if the price of gold wasn't manipulated.
And repeat that, Clay. If it wasn't manipulated, repeat that because that's critical. If the price of
gold wasn't manipulated on a per ounce basis, the price of gold would be $14,014 per ounce today, if not much higher than that. And that's on the U.S. debt clock website. Also, you're going to see the amount of currency in circulation. Again, this is on the St. Louis Fed tracks the printing of money. The amount of money being printed right now is truly epic. What's happening? And so, again, Bo, you were right about the Roe versus Wade being overturned. You've been right about the collapse of the dollar. I want to be very clear. I'm not a person that responds well to threats and hate, but I also am aware. I'm aware of things. And people were so frustrated that I had you on the show because they're like, this guy's saying the dollar's going to collapse. The inflation rate's not even 5%. Well, now the government's trying to tell us that the inflation rate is 8.6% when the cost of gas is up 35%, 40%, or double. When the cost of avocados is up 35 or 40% or double. The cost of plywood is up 35 or 40% or double. And they keep saying the inflation rate's 8.6%. What would happen if the news...
Clay, if I can interrupt, Clay, let me just interrupt. Think about this for a minute, right? When gas was $3, right, and now it's $6, okay? At $6, you can only buy half as much gas. That's
so we're being told, though, again, that the media right now is saying, well, the inflation rate is 8.6%. I think people would be falling to their knees and crying and thanking the gas station if the prices were only up 8.6% since President left office. And so you've been consistently right. And what I'm doing is I'm not propping you up as a prophet or saying Bo Polny rules the world. I just wanted to take a moment because you've been very humble about it. You've been very much on target. And you're telling us to open our Bibles to Leviticus chapter 25, verse 10, Romans chapter 8, verse 30. And folks, it's okay to put this in your calendar and to celebrate June 24th. It's okay to celebrate the overturning of Roe versus Wade. Bo, I'm going to give you the final word here because there's so much information you're going to pack into the Reawaken America tour in Virginia Beach. And I know you weren't sitting around doing nothing, and I appreciate you moving your schedule around to be here. I've been doing back-to-back interviews all day today. I called you up. You're the first person I called. Thank you for carving out time here. I'll give you the final words here.
Correct. That's the whole thing, Clay. I don't want any glory in this because the glory goes to God. All I've been is a messenger like yourself, Clay. I got the prophetic word the other day just about you. Why is your name Clay? Because you can't be bought. For example, like you can't be bound by iron. Clay doesn't bind to iron. Read Daniel 2. That's why your name was given to you as Clay. So, let's talk about present time. We will now see devastation because evil came against God's creation, a prophetic word of this morning. We will now see devastation devastation because evil came against God's creation. God is now with us, and we're about to see devastation, massive things are about to go off across the world. The Kimplement prophecy, the 2 E's, earthquakes and eruptions are about to start popping off to stop the massive riots that are about to go off across the United States. This is going to be historic, and then the prophetic word of Kim Clement, they fall and fall. This is going to be a fall like we have never seen before. It is going to be biblical, historic. These people who have been, these Satanists, these evil people within our government that are basically taking control of the world, I do not believe we're going to see any of their faces by the end of this year. This year is going to be 180 degrees by the time we get into December of what it was here in the month of June. So again, that coin has 2 sides, and the second half of this year is going to be awesome, Clay.
Also, just to pile on here, again, you talk about the wickedness being exposed. Just so we're clear, in the collapse of the dollar, the stock market, those people who've put their retirements in the stock market has lost $3 trillion of value. As of yesterday, $3 trillion of value. Also, Bill Gates, right now, there's a probe looking into his buying up of land in North Dakota, apparently in violation of local law there. I mean, there's a lot of exposure happening right now. Bo, thank you so much. I can't wait to see you on the Reawaken America Tour in Virginia Beach. We're now down to our final 700 tickets. Folks, if you want to join us in Virginia Beach, I don't care how much you pay. You can name your price. Join Eric Trump, Don Trump Jr. We've got Bo Polny, Amanda Grace in the place, Lance Wallenow, Kim Clement's daughter, Donna Clement, General Flynn, Mike Lindell. It's Team America, 84 confirmed speakers. Sean Foyt, come on now. The Reawaken America Tour is coming to Virginia Beach in July, and then August we're going to Rochester. Thank you, Bo, for being on Team America. Have a great day.
God bless.
Bye-bye.